Good morning or good afternoon. Today we'll be recording a video on Quizzette 621 for my highly accelerated math. Or if you're my regular 6th grade, it's probably like, I don't know, like 632 or something. So go ahead and write your last name, comma, your first name, today's date, which happens to be January 27th, 2020. Make sure you write your class color. In here, I'll say that my class color is red, but go ahead and put the right class color. Number 1, it says, find the value of the expression P plus 10 plus N plus Q. This can also be found on IXL. If you have an IXL account, the IXL that I'm doing is 6th grade Y5 and 6th grade Y11. All right, so you have to plug in the terms that it gives you. So it says find the value of the expression for N equals 1, P equals 6, Q equals 3. So wherever you see N in the expression, you're going to plug in 1. Everywhere you see P, you're going to plug in 6. And everywhere you see Q, you're going to plug in 3. So you end up getting an expression that looks like this. 6 plus 10 plus 1 plus 3. So now this expression, this algebraic expression, now turned into a numerical expression. And numerical expressions, you can combine like terms, and you're going to end up getting one answer, like one number as your answer. That's a numerical expression. Remember, algebraic expression just means that you have a letter or a mystery number involved in the expression. And then I also want to review that this expression here has how many terms? 1, 2, 3, 4. The expression had 4 terms in it. But now it's a numerical expression because we plugged them in. We're going to solve it. 6, and we have to go in order. And we're also going to go from left to right. 6 plus 10 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17. 17 plus 3 is 20. So this numerical expression adds up to 20. Number 2, you're going to be using the distributive property. So go ahead and write distributive property here. And when we use the distributive property, if there's a term outside of a parentheses, we can distribute that term by way of multiplication. Please always draw arrows when you're using the distributive property. The arrows represent the multiplication and the distribution of that 3 by way of multiplication. So 3 times 3, or 3 multiplied by 3, is 9. 3 multiplied by 3c is 9c. And then the operation that's between them remains the same. So this expression, 3 times the quantity of 3 plus 3c, is now 9 plus 9c. And that would be your answer. So go ahead and draw this on the side. You can just draw like a box. Another way to represent this, 3 times the quantity 3 plus 3c. Or 3 times the quantity 3 plus 3c. Yeah, I said that right. So this is essentially saying that you have 3 pairs of 3 plus 3c, 3 plus 3c, and 3 plus 3c. That's what this 3 represents that I'm about to underline in blue. You have 3 sets of 3 plus 3c. Now, if you add those together, you end up getting 3c plus 3c plus 3c. That's 9c. You're still adding them all together. And then 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. Doesn't this answer match with that answer? So that's how we can essentially prove, and I say prove in quotations because we're not technically proving it, but we can show that the equivalent of the distributive property is also the sum of the three quantities inside the parentheses added together are. All right, so number 3. Oh, by the way, number 3 is also on IXL. So number 3 is Y9 if you have an IXL account, and Y10. So you can practice more. So number 3 says, which equation shows the commutative property of addition? So I'm going to read you the definition straight. It says, when adding, changing the order of the numbers does not change the sum. So changing the order from one side of the equation to the other side of the equation shouldn't change the sum if you're applying at the commutative property of addition. So let's look here. The first one, we have F. I'm going to try to make that highlighter a little darker. So we have F and G, and then we have G, then F. So that would indicate that we're using the commutative property of addition. So this one counts. And then the next one, it's G plus H plus J equals F. That's not commutative property. Let's look at the next one. F plus G plus H. Well, F plus G is inside the parentheses. And then the next one, we have G and H inside the parentheses. That's actually considered to be the associative property of addition. So you can write that there. Oops, let me switch back to pen. So this one right here is the associative. You can write that. Property of addition. And the associative property of addition is when you add more than two numbers and you group the numbers in different order, but the sum doesn't change. So when there are two or more terms, and you arrange them differently and the parentheses are around another two set of numbers, and you still get the same answer, that's considered the associative property of addition. And then this last one is 0 plus F equals F. That's called the identity property. So you can write identity of addition. And the identity property of multiplication, so multiplication, I'm just going to abbreviate everything. So identity property of multiplication would be 1 times F equals F. So the identity of addition is when you add 0 to something, you're going to get the same thing. And the identity property of multiplication is multiplying that number by 1 will still get you the same thing. So identity is probably the easiest one. Associative is if you have two or more terms and the parentheses are arranged in a different order, but you still get the same answer. Commutative is when you're changing the order, but you still get the same answer. And then you guys know distributive has a number outside of a parentheses. So that's distributive property. Now let's look at number 4. Which property of multiplication is shown? Oh, well, I just showed it to you. The identity property of multiplication is shown. So we can say that it's the identity property. This and this belong together. And then number 5. Number 5 is probably my favorite question that you guys have on this Quizzette. And again, it is an IXL exercise. If you have an IXL account, you can practice by studying Y17. And it says select the expressions that are equivalent, which means equal, to 8W plus 3W. So 8W plus 3W are like terms. They both have W next to them. I can combine that for a total of 11W. Now I have to look at the expressions given to me, and I have to see which ones are equivalent to 11W. Now the first one is W times 11. I can also write that as 11W. Therefore, this one is correct. And then the second one is 3W plus 5W plus 3W. I can combine those. If I combine all three of those terms, I get 11W, which is what I want. So that one is also correct. Let's look at the next one, W plus 11. That one I can't combine because if I try to add those together, I would have to have two constants, or I would have to have two terms that have the same variable. And 11 doesn't have a variable. So this one, unfortunately, stays W plus 11, and that's not what I want. And the last one, we have 10W plus W. Remember that the coefficient in front of a variable, if it doesn't have a number in front of it, we're going to assume the identity property that it has a 1 in front of it. 10W plus 1W is 11W. So my final answer is A, B, and D.